There's so much going on right now. We're in the midst of a government shutdown. And just about a little over a month ago, I captured the story, or at least the story caught my attention, of Dr. Umar Johnson and his nonprofit. So this kind of prompted me to create, um, I guess, a presentation of the wrong things when you're running or operating a nonprofit organization based on what I saw that was done wrong with the start of his organization. So I'm not going to blur my little social media platforms by playing those videos because they're still ongoing about him. But what I want to make sure is that my nonprofit leaders tune in to know what you should be doing and what are the red flags that you want to stay away from, even if a lot of nonprofits, before you get your 501(c)(3, you might want to have a fiscal sponsor. In that case, you want to make sure you check them out as well. Because a lot of times our name is all we have, right? Reputation is almost everything, and especially when you're trying to be a leader. So we're going to jump right into it. Let me just share, starting off. And for those that don't know, I'm Miss Kathy, and it's about all things nonprofit with me. My one of my I get things that I say is about represent is be aware and empower, because a lot of times our resources are right there in front of us. I hear so many people say, well, you don't know what you don't know, but that's not always true, right? So bear with me here. Let me haven't used Zoom in a while, so let me make sure I get the right page. All right, let's see. So this is going to be 6 red flags nonprofit leaders must avoid. So let me present, voila, and present, voila. All righty, put myself off in the corner. All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen. And I'm going to just jump right in it. Like I said, let me move this out of my way. Okay, 6 red flags nonprofit leaders must avoid, right? And we're going to start with red flag number one. One of the things that I noticed with the organization that he started, everything is Dr. Umar Johnson, right? I'm going to keep giving reference to him for now. And as we go along on the channel, I'm going to at least once a month find some nonprofits to highlight on what not to do, right? And but we're still going to give you some positive on things and best practices and what to do, and eventually some guests who are running some very great nonprofit organizations and very compliant in what they are doing. Okay, because it's not really that hard. It should not be. It's been written. The rules haven't changed really since the start in 1969. Some things, actually getting the nonprofit organization, the process is relatively simple. There's just some things that the reason that you might want an expert like myself when it comes to filing, or an attorney, or even sometimes accountants can do it as well if they specialize in nonprofits, because there are some key things that have to exist, even though you're not submitting those when you're starting a nonprofit organization. So, red flag number one is having a weak governance and compliance. Um, there was no active or independent board. Remember, you do not own a nonprofit organization. The board of directors, which are the officers, vice president, let's say president, vice president. So you want a vice president in case something happens to the president, and then you have the secretary and the treasurer. Okay, those are the 4 positions that you must have. And then I always advise you can have to try to have 5 board members so you're not gridlocked when it comes time for voting. Okay, so he had no active board member. A lot of times, because the IRS does not ask for you to submit this, but if you're trying to get a grant, a lot of times they want to see them. They want to know that you have bylaws and a conflict of interest policies. In today's time, we definitely want to have that conflict of interest policies, but your bylaws, it kind of governs or sets the structure of your nonprofit on that level of board governance, right? Non-compliant with state and federal findings. So there's a state portion to that, even in the process of getting your 501(c)(3. But then the IRS, which is federal, has the final say of being tax exempt. So if one or the other is out of place, then your organization is considered non-compliant. In his case, the organization was started first in Philadelphia, and I saw that kind of go away. It was not even started as a 501(c)(3) public charity. And then in Delaware, it was established appropriately, except all I see is one person. I don't see board of directors, which again, you don't own a nonprofit. So transparency, that should be listed. What should be done? You should have, I mentioned that in the beginning because I talk a lot. I could say this all in my sleep. 3 board members meeting regularly with me minutes regularly required regularly is these once a year. So a lot of times in your bylaws, you want to say annual meeting. And then all your other meetings, especially if you're a small nonprofit, is basically just you're almost working as committees and you're getting the organization or the programs in place and starting to operate. So a lot of times your board members are going to do a dual. They'll be the officers, but any other time, we're basically operating within the organization. Okay. Um, I said register annually. I'm ahead of myself. And then you must have those policies in place. Like I said, conflict of interest. And for the sake of your own proprietary information, you might want a non-disclosure NDA, as well as a non-compete. That could be very important. We can't just sit around talking about someone took our idea, because sometimes people come on your board specifically so they can take certain things and start their own. That is just a fact. We don't need to just talk about it. We need to do something about it to prevent that. All right. So the number two flag is lack of financial transparency. Remember, it is a public entity, so there is supposed to be transparency. Now, some people will say, that's why I don't want to do a nonprofit. I'll just do a for-profit. Well, technically, your for-profit should be transparent when it comes to financial, not necessarily to the public, but to the IRS, our governing body or our governing entity on the federal level in the United States of America, right? It's different in other countries, but what I know is basically the United States. So, no IRS Form 990 filing. So, even after you get the tax exempt status every single year, you need to make sure that you're filing the 990. It could be the short form, it could be the long form. It all depends on how much revenue you have received for the year. That's why it's important. Now, all of that is public. So, I can go to the IRS, and that's how I was able to see Dr. Johnson's actually his 990s that existed and the ones that didn't exist. I can say the ones that did exist, they didn't match. Someone did the long forms for him. He might have done it himself. But at the end of the day, when you start, whatever you end, like this year, 2025, if we end with 80,000, then that means 2026 should start with 80,000. It seems kind of, when I say it like that, like, duh, but people will say, I don't know how to do financials. Yes, you do. Let's get the accounting software. That could be QuickBooks. It could be, there's so many. And I actually, in our school community, I have resources where you can get those kind of things for free or low cost, right? So, um, join us, and then you won't have any doubt on what you need to do. And then no audited financial statements, right? When that audit comes and hit him, that's what's going to be noticed. They're going to have a hard time because I understand that's Cash App, Venmo. Stop that, you guys. Stop that. I need to have one payment, merchant service. PayPal, as much as on the consumer side, we talk about it, maybe even the business side, but on the nonprofit side, there are certain things that are set up in PayPal designed for nonprofits to make sure or ensure that they are compliant. If anyone gives money, you should be capturing the name, you should be capturing their address, maybe their phone number, and in some cases, the workplaces. We want to have money trail. That is so important because you don't want to get questioned or have an audit just because you didn't capture that information and somebody's just basically washing their money. Okay? You know what I mean? So donors for him have been asking, where is the money? Because it's been almost 10 years, 12 years, what have you. People have given over all together collectively that what we can see just on the 990s is over like 900,000, right? We know that it's been millions that have over a million that has been taken up for this, and the school still is not in operation. What we should be doing is filing them on time. That is annually. If you make zero revenue, and be careful with that. Actually, again, I'm going to say you get in my community and I teach you how to build a budget. And that budget sometimes is based on what they call in-kind donations. So the work that you're doing, if you're doing it in a position as a director, but you don't have the revenue coming in to even pay yourself in a position, the secretary, or we'll say in the case of operations, it would be administrative assistant. You don't have the funds to pay them. You want to say that's in kind. Whatever that salary would be, you want to count that. If you only gave an administrative assistant $100 a week, but you know they're doing 30 hours of work, then we're going to take that $100 and subtract that from whatever that their salary or income would be for that week. 30 hours times 20. If it's 600, subtract that 100. So $500 would be in kind. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Um, you want to provide donors with impact and financial updates. So that's one of the things we discussed too. Having that newsletter, make sure you keep up with your donors. You want to sustain your donors and you want to bring in more donors. A lot of times, if you can tell the story of what you're doing as you're progressing and utilizing the funds and building, in the case of him having a school, it could have been shown, how many, everybody's saying, who are you helping? You don't have to necessarily show the actual people, but people will give those testimonials. You will have what they call evaluations. So you want to see the progress of how the individual is transforming, right? And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's a school, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's for cancer, whether it's for people with cancer, whoever you're supporting, you should show how that is helping them, right? And engage everyone in the community that wants might want to be a part. They don't know if they don't know what you're doing. So let's go on to red flag number three. Number three, no active programs or services. Obviously, for Dr. Umar Johnson, there are none because the school isn't even opened. He's begging for money instead of showing that, okay, maybe they're operating out of a church or out of another building or something like that that's already ready, or office space, but nothing has been going on that we can see, right? That is important. If you want grant funding, then you want to make sure you have some active programs and services. That can start with just a mentorship. That can start with, if you're what we call feeding the homeless. If you're doing that or helping the unhoused, still have a mentorship program. You don't have to just give away the food and let people go. Let's sign some people up to have that to take them to the next level. That might be just navigating the resources in the community. Because a lot of times when you have problems, or you're in it, you don't see what's out there. I hear so many people say there's not hardly any resources. There's a lot of resources, but the time to look for them is when you don't need them. So that's what we as nonprofit leaders should be, that liaison to be able to help navigate, to talk to that case manager for them. A lot of times people don't understand that when you have um, Medicaid or Medicare or some type of service of mental health, you have a case manager, and sometimes they're so overloaded, so they need the person that you're helping needs like an advocate to communicate and help them navigate that. Don't let them miss appointments. Maybe you need to set up public transit for them to be able to go. Call them the day before or have some kind of app that you have created that will remind them. I'm giving you some things for programs and services. So, building but not no programming, right? So like he went after a building. I say do the opposite. Start your programs first. Let the building come because a lot of times it makes no sense to buy a building. It's a nonprofit for God's sake. If you just have a lease for $1 a year for the next 100 years, but don't put the nonprofit in debt for no reason. If it was a great building and maybe you had a partnership or collaborative, you're getting grant funding from the state, maybe some other grants or what have you, and you're going to buy that, but you're also going to lease space within there or do some other programs that are going to make money and sustainable. A coffee shop, I don't know, a franchise that's in there. Um, so many things, but don't just have that building for yourself and you're not generating any revenue from that because that becomes a liability. You have to pay taxes on the building every year. You have to pay the light bill, the water bill, all these things, right? That we just want buildings. Let's help people first. No students, clients, or measurable outcomes. I've said this over and over. All talk, no action. And it was just, I can't even say a perception because in the beginning, there was a perception that he was really going to do this school. He's really helping the children. He's really going to open this. And maybe you're doing that too. Let's stop that. Let's actually do the action. I don't care if it's two children. I don't care if it's two women, two men, one. It doesn't matter. Start helping people and then grow. So here we go. Start small, consistent programs. Start with one and let it grow. Track the outcomes. That means documenting. You know, share success stories. Very important. I just talked about that. So, red flag number 4, founder syndrome. This is the me, me, me. I did this. It's my nonprofit. I'm making this money. I'm this, this, this. That is founder syndrome. One person controlling everything. No succession plan or leadership pipeline, right? Everything should be written just like you work a job. It can be, remember, nonprofits can be universities, can be daycare, schools, hospitals. There are a lot of nonprofits that they choose the entity of for profit or nonprofit, just as I did when I had a group home. I went from for profit and we transitioned to a nonprofit for the purpose of getting more funding to be able to help the mentally challenged. But there's a way to structure because the house can be owned by you as a for-profit or your individual self, I would say as a for-profit, LLC, S corp, or what have you, and then you're leasing it to the nonprofit. Hmm. Hmm. All right. Organization collapses if the founder steps away, and that's evident that if, with everything going down, if he gets whatever happens, even with accounts being shut down, the organization is basically collapsing. Build a leadership team. You're not an island. I tell my nonprofit leaders all the time, you are not an island. Make sure you're building leadership, right? Delegate and create a succession plan. That is so important. If something happens, we don't want to think about what happens to us, but we should have succession plans even when it deals with our own family, right? We never know what's going to happen to us or any individual, but we want that nonprofit to continue no matter who gets sick, who dies, who's worried about children, who's doing whatever they're doing, who goes to jail. We want that nonprofit to continue because it's all about the legacy of helping people. And so, number 5, the red flag, damage community trust and reputation. And that is what's happening. It's like spiraling out of control, right? I'm just going to go in poor communication and engagement. Broken promises to donors and the community is so sad. Reputation becomes a liability. And let's just go into what we should be doing. Communicating consistently. Newsletters are a way to do it. Being on social media, talking to your community, being in the a lot of times connected to your local, I won't say the politicians, but I'm thinking about the entities, Department of Human Services, whatever department your nonprofit fits in, make sure you're going to support meetings about that. Like, for instance, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I know that Thursday there's something called Stand Up Nashville, and they've been addressing housing, right? And this is they're bringing together several organizations and the overall community to come and have a say and talk about what can be done, right? I love going to those kind of meetings, but they have opened that up for the public, and they basically have those meetings pretty much every month. Gather testimonies and build partnerships. I can't say that enough. Partnerships, building testimonials. And a lot of times, if you're doing good work, people will want to speak for you. They will talk about how great the organization is. I kind of went down a rabbit hole like we all do on social media, or most of us do on social media. And it was this site that talks about the unhoused or homelessness. And they go all around, I believe, the country, the United States, and interview people who have found themselves homeless. Some of them chronically homelessness, like meaning they have been out on the streets for 10 years or more. And you get to hear the human side. It was just, by the time I got to the fifth one, fourth or fifth one, I'm about to cry. So I was like, okay, let me reset myself because I'll get stuck. And I know it's there. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to, as a leader, you have to make sure you reset, recharge yourself because it will become depressing. Even the stories that ended up good, but there was a couple of them where the person had passed, and it's like, that's real life. That's real life. So I noticed that one of them, they found housing, and she kept singing the praises of this nonprofit. She said out of all the 12 years, people had said they were going to help her. She's gone to shelters, and then they said they run out of funding or they can't or whatever. And she might not be telling the whole truth. But at the end of the day, the one that was able to help her get into a space, she could not stop talking about them. So that's why it's important for people to speak for on behalf of your organization, the good things, because what that does, that brings in the funders because you don't know who's watching. You don't know who will give that miscellaneous donation or that donation, period. Right? I've seen that so much. All right. So I actually have six. Wow. Okay. Let me see here. Yeah, I said six, didn't I? I forgot. Unsustainable funding model, and that's important too. Like I said about the funding, this is the reason now you're doing all these things that I said, the green dots, because, or the squares, whatever, because that helps with funding. I even gave the idea that if you were to have a building, make sure you're doing have other entities in there that maybe could generate the revenue to get for you to get lease. There's so many ways, okay? But what this Umar person was doing or has been doing is reliance on one revenue stream. I haven't heard about getting grants. As a matter of fact, he talks down about government and all these other things, corporations. Well, duh. First of all, the government is us, right? It's us. It's our tax money. So why would we not want to get that money? The other thing, there's corporations. If you think of every major corporation, you can talk all day long about Elon Musk or anything else. But one of the things I know is that all of these major corporations have a community give back. Just because you didn't look at that website to see that down at the bottom there was a community foundation or a foundation that you could actually apply for the funding. Right. So be careful with out there being on out there talking about the negatives, okay, out there and what's going on, because you could bite yourself in the behind, which Dr. Umar has done. He's talked about some people who wanted to give. No reserves, a strategic plan. That's why you have a team, because you want to keep a strategic plan, follow that, revise it, follow it, revise it. Every year you should be revising it continuously, find out what you've done well and what hasn't worked, and continue to do that. which he did not. Survival depends on one person's fundraising, and that's what it's been. I have not heard raise money for, like, it's only been him, pretty much, Dr. Johnson. So, diversity in income, that means grants, donors, earned income, and you continue that cycle. That's why you build the team, because all things should be done at the same time. One of the things I'm going to be doing before the end of the year, I'm going to have a fundraising challenge, and it will be for free. And we will do a fundraiser. It'll be about 5 to 7 days, like 2 days of prep, 5 days before Giving Tuesday. If you don't know what Giving Tuesday is and you have a nonprofit organization, shame on you. Go look it up. Make sure you register. Get your PayPal, get your Facebook, get um, your tools. You can go to the website and you can download those, all of those, or you could just get in our school community and you're going to have all that available to you really soon. Build 3+ months of reserves and long-term plan. Does that sound familiar? It's just like we say in business, just like we say in personal life. You should have 3 to 6 months in reserves. Same thing with this. If you know you have a program, it's going to cost you $1,000 a month. You easily could just raise $12,000 and be covered for the year. But at least have 3 to 5,000, in reserve. You don't have to use all the funds that you get. And even when you're submitting with grants, it's good to show that you can use the money, period, over a certain amount of time. Okay. All right, and I keep interjecting this. Yes, yes, yes. I keep saying this for those who are not already in the school community. This has been one of the hardest things I've really had to do because I have to check myself on being consistent. But the other thing is, I have to check myself on making sure I just give value and not worry about who's actually doing the action. So the same thing I'm telling you, I have to tell myself all the time. You never know who's watching. You never know who's watching. And you all want to make that a lot of times you'll hear in the public when we make it for the negative, but for the good. My mother used to always tell me that keep doing the right thing because at some point someone's recognizing that and they will reward you. You don't have to wait for heaven. On this earth, somebody will come and support. Okay. So what's inside the nonprofit funding hub and impact hub? Access to grant opportunities and funding resources. And I just kind of trickle those grant opportunities. Some people will come in and say, what happened to the grant resources? Well, that's when I know that they haven't quite gone through that whole school community. Now I've separated a category for grants alone, but I'm not giving away just everything now. A membership will be starting very low cost, will be starting soon, and then we can actually narrow down to what your organization is and give you the grant specific for your location and your category. Expert guidance on nonprofit growth strategies. For now, a lot of times it's me. There's other people. Sometimes we'll post. We have some people in the community who are experts as well in various areas because guess what? Nonprofit is a business. So because it is a business, just like any other corporation, um, there's marketing, we said financial, there's all kind of areas of operation for a nonprofit that needs, okay? So don't just think nonprofit experts. And then networking with like-minded nonprofit leaders and professionals. So a lot, they're there, right? I think we're up to 115 as of today when I'm actually doing this video. But they're all in some form or fashion connected to nonprofits, whether they work for one or they have a founder of one or wanting to start one. They're there. So get in there and community, see who's in there, and you never know. They could be in your same city, even your same state. Sometimes it's easy to find out what others are doing and share and collaborate, and all of that is welcome because ultimately, what I would like to see myself, my ultimate goal is I don't want people that are struggling to try to pay me for my services. I don't want to be known just for a grant writer because at the end of the day, that's still going to require the nonprofit leaders to be involved. You can't just throw something to someone and say, write this for me, right? It has to be a back and forth. It has to be some coaching, some accountability, all of that, some strategy. Okay, we've gone this way. Let's try to tweak it this way, and let's communicate. Because at the end of the day, when the funder wants to give you the money or you get to that level of where they want to talk to you, they only want to hear from you, not the writer, unless you're the writer. They only want to hear. So you need to know what's being written, but that will help you build faster. So I really get that kind of partnership money, right? We can go in together on a grant, not get paid after the grant in that respect. I'd rather you get these small grants out here and be able to pay for assistance, right? And then we build to get better because we're always trying to make a living, right? Unless you're already wealthy. I don't know. All right. Well, I hope you got something out of that and join us. I will put the link if you're on YouTube. I'll put it down in the description and you can join us. And for those that are already in the community, hey y'all, you know me, silly old me, but I know what I know, right? So my heart does go out for the people that are in need, but more importantly, I just want to see them get help. And I know that I can't do it by myself. I'm just a little fraction. You're just a little fraction. But if we all do something, those that can, or we pull together the people that can, then it makes for a better place and a better life for others. All right, y'all take care. Peace.